Hey, thanks so much for finding the video. Do us a favor. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe. Be sure to leave your comment. We love to interact. Enjoy the video. The NFL draft came and went, and shortly after the draft, as we know always happens, guys that go undrafted sign undrafted rookie free agent deals. Well, there are still players that don't sign immediately after the draft and after those rookie free agent deals start getting signed. Some instead get invited to rookie minicamp. So a short time after the draft picks and then select veterans get invited to rookie minicamp to have sort of a tryout. And that's oftentimes where guys will go work out for the team, just get another look to see if maybe they might be a fit for that organization. So that happened this past weekend. NFL teams had rookie minicamps all over, and the Saints were no exception. And they worked out a handful of players. The interesting thing about this year in particular is that NFL teams, because of COVID, were limited to 5 invitees. Only 5 undrafted rookies could come work out at this past weekend's rookie minicamp. So the Saints had 5 players come and work out, and they did end up signing 3 of them. Linebacker Quentin Poling, offensive lineman Kyle Murphy, and defensive tackle Lorenzo Neal Jr. You might have heard the story by now. If you're not familiar, Lorenzo Neal Jr., of course, is the son of former Saints fullback Lorenzo Neal. Lorenzo Neal, who was drafted by the Saints in the 4th round of the 1993 NFL Draft, who played 16 NFL seasons, who was a member of the NFL's 2000s All-Decade team. Lorenzo Neal, now retired, his son will begin his career in the same place where his father began his back in 1993, which is an awesome, cool parallel. I love this on so many levels. I love the nostalgia of Lorenzo Neal starting his career in the same place that his dad did. Being someone who watched the Saints in the early 90s, who was going to games in the early 90s and watched Lorenzo Neal, I love the fact that it's sort of eras being tied together. I also really like this signing as a prospect. So I went and did some digging on Lorenzo Neal Jr. Admittedly, I didn't know a ton about him, but he played his college ball at Purdue. And his career at one point was on a very lofty trajectory, but he had a pretty devastating ACL injury, which derailed it. So he played in 2017 as a freshman and then had a breakout season in 2018 as a sophomore. As a matter of fact, Pro Football Focus, before the 29, I went and looked this tweet up today. Pro Football Focus in 2019, in August of 2019, mentioned that Lorenzo Neal was the second highest graded defensive player returning to Purdue for that season. He had 15 quarterback pressures, 22 defensive stops, and 81.2 run defense grade. Basically, he was a really good interior player at 6'3", 325 pounds. He was a run stuffer. He was creating havoc and pressure. He was batting down balls at the line of scrimmage. He had forced a couple of fumbles. But he tore his ACL in the last game of the 2018 season. Missed the bowl game. And complications from that torn ACL caused him to miss the entire 2019 season. There were way too early draft projections after 2018 that had him as a potential first rounder in 2019. Now, obviously, that was way too early, and then the ACL injury comes, and then it lingers, and everything since then happened. He did return to Purdue in 2020 in what was, of course, an abbreviated Big Ten season. They played just 6 games in that shortened season, and he had only a handful of tackles in an abbreviated season. So I understand why NFL teams cooled on a player like Lorenzo Neal. Think of it in these terms. Many people around here might even be more familiar with Dylan Moses. Dylan Moses was on the cover of ESPN, the magazine, as an 8th grader. We all know the story. He was a projected first-round draft pick, tears his ACL, decides to go back to Alabama, never got back really to his pre-ACL form this season, and went undrafted because no team was going to pass him on a medical. So sometimes those things happen, and great players fall in the draft or out of the draft altogether because of injury. And it appears that's what happened here with Lorenzo Neal. But you know he's got the genetics. He's the son of a dude that played 16 years in the NFL. He had the resume, was building the resume at one point in his college career, and then was derailed by injury. If he can come back from this injury, it's a big if, the Saints may have a steal here. Maybe they don't, but what does it cost you? The guy worked out at rookie minicamp, and you sign him to an undrafted free agent rookie deal after minicamp. So you have him to come to training camp to see if he can make the squad. Okay. I'll remind you that you lost Malcolm Brown and Sheldon Rankins in free agency. You need interior linemen. You didn't draft any, and you don't have any money to go sign any high-priced free agents. You couldn't even keep your own. I'll also remind you that the Saints have found gems on the defensive line among their undrafted free agents. 2 years ago, it was Shai Tuttle. Last year, it was Malcolm Roach. Now, maybe it's Lorenzo Neal. Maybe not. But at a position of need, a guy who has the pedigree and at one point was building the resume, if you're betting on the come here, you're getting a low entry point, and if he's healthy and can show out, maybe you might have stumbled on a guy that can actually give you meaningful snaps. I'm not trying to get ahead of myself here, but there's reason to be excited about letting Ryan Nielsen get his hands on Lorenzo Neal to see if maybe you can coach that guy up and maybe he could be a rotational player for you at a place where you need depth. We'll get those answers once training camp rolls around, but it's certainly an intriguing prospect to keep an eye on, and not just because of the name on the back of the jersey. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.